So Baruch Hashem, we're going to start the Maimah Pakadeta, which was said on Pashas Lech Lecha Ranat. This is the seventh and penultimate Maimah in the hemshekh. And the previous Maimah was Pashas Bereshis. Pashas Noach, the plan was that by the Rebbe Rashab Ranat there wasn't going to be a Maimah. He wasn't feeling well. So by the Frierdiker Rebbe, he made a Farbrengen. On the Maimah was usually on a Friday night, by Kabbalah Shabbos. So he made a Farbrengen which began before Lichtbenchen and carried on for many hours afterwards. I don't know what this Punkt to say there was in the Gear to Kiddush and Ma'ariv, but the Poil there was a long Farbrengen by the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Frierdiker Rebbe chazed the Maimah from Bereshis. So the Eila Tildes Shemaim Ba'aretz, which we finished last time, Frierdiker Rebbe chazed. And they agreed they were going to make a Farbrengen the next day again after davening. They'll get up early, they'll daven early, do Farbrengen. By about midday they started the Farbrengen. And all of a sudden there was a knock on the door and the Rebbe Rashab came to the Farbrengen. They were all a bit shocked. He turned up. And B'Poil, at that Farbrengen, he chazed himself the Maimah Cholzu, which he had said Simchas Torah. He chazed again because it was the Chassid, Schnessen, Bleib Schnessen, who was a particularly dismissive of Anoshim Pshutim, and he was also had a machlekes at that time in his shtat, and whatever. So it was probably one.
Was it machlekes?
There was a machlekes in Belize, I think the place is called, where he came from. Another story. If you look in the back, you'll see the sichos with Eichotzu. It gives a little bit of the details. But that was Pashas Noach. Ranat. So Lech Lecha Ranat, the Rebbe Rashab must have been feeling better, and he said the Maimah on the Friday night of Pakadeta. And again, like I think I mentioned last time, there was a Chassid. Can you look in the back in the Sichas, who came, an Alter Chassid, knew ganz good Chassidus, but the Poel, he found this Maimah very, very difficult to understand. And the Bachrim sat with him and they helped him understand the Maimah. They explained the Maimah. So the Bachrim, who were like these new, this new musag of Tmimim, were already developing a very advanced levels in Chassidus. They were able to chap what the Rebbe Rashab meant, and they had to explain it to an Alter Chassid who wasn't used to this style of Chassidus. Okay. So we're really in the final straits of the hemshekh. The Pakadeta leads straight into the Chol Tichla, and there's a lot going on over here. So as usual, pay attention. As usual, remember everything that we've learned until now. And the better we learn this Maimah, obviously the better we'll be able to understand the Chol Tichla. Because a lot of the real the punchline in the Chol Tichla at the end is really already contained in this Maimah. It's just elaborated upon in the Chol Tichla, and everything, all the pieces are brought together. Okay? So Amud Pei. Pakadeta ha'aretz v'atashekeka. So it says in Tehillim, in Kapitel Samach Hey, that you remembered the earth and you watered it. Rabos tas reno peleg elikim moli moyim, and you enriched it greatly. Rabas tas reno, you enriched it greatly. You with the peleg elikim, with the stream of the Lord of Elikim, Moli Moyim, which was full of water. Okay, that's the pasuk. It's not the end. I'm surprised it doesn't say B'chuli because there's because there's the rest of a few more words of the pasuk, but they don't. They're not included and they're not relevant to the beer that we're going to give. Okay, so that's the pasuk. So make sure you know how to type up the pasuk.
What does Pakad mean again, literally?
Remember. Like we had the end of last week's parsha.
Should have remembered.
Yeah. So Pakadeta. But we're going to actually talk a bit about what does Pakad mean, or what that's the Pashtup Pshat. Now, Hine Yesh Mefarshim There are mefarshim, says in the footnote, the Sforno, the pasuk zeh koi al keidim chetei tadas. This is a reference to the way things were prior to the chetei tadas. The oz pakadeta haaretz lashbi alomayim. Then you remember the earth to sustain it, to support it with water. But the sheikaka hu lashon hashka'a. So the sheikaka, it means to water it, to satiate, yeah? Lashon hashka'a, to pour over it. And like it says, Benegeya to the matzav, the way it was, Kedem Chetei Sadas in the Pasuk in Bereshis, the Eid Yalim in Aretz, for Vihishka is Kopnei Adama, right? Something like that. The mist rose up from the earth and it watered the entire land. So that's the suggestion in the Sforno, that this is a pasuk that is connected, is a reference to the way things were before Chetei Sadas. Ask the Rebbe, in Mashayich Kudas Ha'aretz Lechetei Sadas. You need to understand what is the connection between remembering the earth and the Chet of Tadas, such that it was only prior to the Chetei Tadas that the earth could be remembered. Afterwards it couldn't. Because isn't it the case that now also there is the remembering of the earth with rain? It doesn't seem like there's been the world has been forgotten. So actually, what's going on over there? What's the change? What is the significance? So what indeed is this? What's the chiddush this one is trying to say? By dafka b'kedem chetei sadas, there was a pekidas haaretz. There was a remembering of the earth in the manner of providing it with water and with rain and with. Doesn't seem like anything materially changed from before chetei sadas to after chetei sadas. Understand the question?
Right.
So to understand this, we need to understand what it means in the pasuk regarding the creation of the heavens and the earth. That it was created with Havaya and Alikim together. And it is the Medrash Rabbah, and the Medrash Rabbah explains as Kol Mokim Shnema Eila Posulas Rishonim. That this is what we discussed in the previous Maimah, that wherever it says Eila, not the means a continuation, whereas Eila comes to negate that which became prior to it. So Umat Posel in this passage, what is it coming to negate? It's coming to negate the concept of Klippa. We explained in the previous Maimah that Toyu Vayu V'Cheshech is a reference to the Gimel Klippas Atmeis. Who which come about and maintain their existence through Midas Adin. And that's what the way it works in the Psukim. At the beginning, Bereshis Bar Elikim, everything was created with Midas Adin. So what happened was there was Klippas and there was Gimel Klippas Atmeis. Yeah, like we explained in the previous time. Just a chazar now that. But by the second period of Bereshis, it says shitav midas arachim midas adin ayidiz apostle teva vayuchli. That through the act of being mishtatif, the midas harachim with the midas adin, that created the bittul of the klippis, which we explained in the previous Maimah. Midas adin, say whether if you learned it like the first pshat, say whether you learned it like the second pshat. In both instances, there will be an enhancement of klippa. And that's why it's undesirable, or it's one of the reasons why it's undesirable to create the world midas adin. That's why the Eibshter, whilst initially intending to create the world midas adin, because of all the benefits that could come from it, there's, in addition to the benefits, there's all of these negative outcomes too, unintended consequences. So, shittif midas arachamim, and thereby was mevatel the toyu, vayu, and cheshech. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very quick chazara of the previous maim and the point of the previous maim. And now we need to understand what it says in the Medrash Rabbah, the beginning of Parshat Mishpatim, which we also quoted at the beginning of the last Maimon. Omar says there, Elul told us, Eila tells us, Shemayim v'aretz, Elul told us, that this Shemayim v'aretz has told us, has offspring, has continuation. But the original Shemayim v'aretz, the Bereshis bar likim as Shemayim v'aretz, loy hayu told us. They do not have told us. What does it mean? We're going to try to understand what it means that these have told us, but the previous Shemayim v'aretz that was created in Bezdin did not have told us. Okay, that's the opening for what we're going to be discussing. What is the pshat told us? What is the pshat offspring? So the concept is as follows: whether you want Bachia or Yubachaya, take your pick. Let's go with Bachia, be traditional. The Isa, but Bachia Pashas Pakudei, in the Rabbeinu Bachaya, sorry, switch between the two. In the Rabbeinu Bachaya, on Pashas Pakudei, what does he say? The Kshem Shekosu B'Brias Ha'elam is Eila tells us Shemayim Ba'aretz, just like it says in our pasuk, which we're referring to, in Bereshis Beis Dalet, Beis Pasuk Dalet, that Eila tells the Shemayim Ba'aretz regarding the creation of the world. Connect the Matzina B'Mishkan Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan. So the Rabbeinu Bachaya connects the expression Eila told us Shemayim Ba'aretz, that Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan. Okay, what is there going to be? We're going to have to elaborate and explain what is the connection. There seem to be two different things, right? Creation of the world and the contents of the Mishkan. Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan. Okay, so that's what the Rebbeinu B'chai says. V'cheinu b'zayah. You find the same thing also in the Zayim. Parashat B'Kudei, Dafresh Chaf on the base. So moving mizeh, the Eila told us Hashemayim v'aretz hu inyan echad im Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan. From both the Zayim and the Rebbeinu B'chai, what this suggests is that this statement of Eila tells Hashemayim, we're trying to understand what is the told us Hashemayim v'aretz. That Dafka, these ones have told us, and they don't have told us. So the way we're going to understand that is using this Zohar and this Rabbeinu B'chaya to understand what is the nature of these toldos. So to understand what the nature of the toldos Hashemayim v'aretz is, we're going to draw from the Zohar and the Rabbeinu B'chaya, who says it's similar, is of the same concept as Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan. So we understand Eila B'Kudei HaMishkan, and maybe we'll understand Eila toldos Hashemayim v'aretz. Right? So it's giving us something to work with to determine what is the meaning of Eila toldos Hashemayim v'aretz, and then we can understand the Medrash about how Dafka Eila, these Shemayim v'aretz have told us, but the Rishonim didn't have any told us. So Pirush Eila B'Kudei. So let's now explain what Eila B'Kudei is. You understand what
Yes.
Yeah, good.
We'll peg it down to...
Right. So this will give us that. Will give us that. So sort of these are the stages of what we're trying to figure out. Pirush Eila B'Kudei. Eila hu bechinas hashisha midlis hanichlolim bevav d'shem havaya. So the word Eila indicates the 6 midlis, Zah, basically, yeah, which are represented by the letter Vav in the Shem Havaya. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Chachma Hei Bina Vav Zah Hei Achreina Malchus. Yeah, that's what Eila is. I'm going to explain why in a second. Give it a chance. The Nikraim, these 6 midlis of Atzilus are called Eila. Why? Lefisha Klulim Kol Echad Mishisha. Because each one of them is made up of the other 6. Made up of each other. Yeah? It's the 6 midlis. They're all made up of each other. Vav Pa'amim Vav. Sorry, Vav Pa'amim Vav. Oila Lamed Vav Kaminyan Eila. So that's what you get Eila. Eila is Gematria 36. And that is therefore a reference to the 6 midlis, which are all colored from each other. 6 times 6 is 36. Yeah?
Yeah.
V'zehu mi bara Eila. And this is what it means when it says in the Pasuk in Yeshaya, mi bara Eila, who created these? What is who? Mi, who bechinas bina. Mi is always a reference to bina, as opposed to ma, which is a reference to chokhmah. Because just like in chokhmah, the question is ma, because it's not yet a defined concept. It's just a nakuda. So ma, you don't know what it is. Whereas already in bina, you're asking about an aspect of the thing. Me, who is this thing? Not what is this thing, but who is this thing?
So to speak.
Yeah, so that's why it's more of a reference to bina. We have this a lot in the Memorim of Pesach. Mitzrayim meitzar mi. Mitzrayim is meitzar mi. Is the constraint of me, of bina. Because if you have the constraint of bina, you then don't have hiladus hamidus, because bina is the sheirish hamidus. Okay, anyway, then right. So me is bechinas bina k'meshik also b'zayah. Ubara eila bechinas hamidus. So me bara eila bina creates the midus. Vav pa'amim vav 36. Eila is zah. Yeah. Shelater is galas hamidus umiyabina. Shenikra ema bonim chulik yidua. So the birth, and not just the birth, but the emergence and the establishment of these middays comes from bina, as we refer to it as aim habonim, the mother of the children. Yeah, chacham is of, bina is aim. Good. Umizeh nimshach pekudei hamishkan. Eile pekudei hamishkan. From Eile, from the 6 middays, from Zah, you get nimshach into the pekudei hamishkan. What is the mishkan? The mishkan of bechinas malchus. Mishkan is malchus. Pardas in erech mishkan. If you look in the pardas in the erech entry for mishkan, he explains how mishkan is malchus for bechinas shechina. Mishkan is melashon shechina, right? Shachin, a mishkan, a dwelling, a dwelling. So malchus and shechina, because shechina is mislabeshes, right? Good. So Eila Pekudei HaMishkan, you've got Zah and Malchus. V'gam lefi HaPirush, the Mishkan hu loshen mashkin, and also according to the Pirush, that Mishkan is not miloshen Shechina, but is miloshen mashkin, a deposit or a pledge, even better, maybe more. K'mishkosav Rabbeinu B'chai b'Parshas Pekudei, hu gam kein b'chinas Malchus. Even if you're going to read the word Eila Pekudei HaMishkan and understand the word Mishkan is Meloshin Mashkin, like the Rabbeinu B'chaya does, it doesn't change the fact that Mashkin is also a reference to Malchus. Because if you look in the Pardas and Erech Mashkin, you'll see that. And also in the Zayah, it says Mashkina Dili Gabaychu. That it talks about how the Mishkan is like the Eibishter's mashkin. The Eibishter places himself, or places all of the Pekudei HaMishkan, all of these items of the Mishkan with the Yidden, as a mashkin. But if they misbehave, he takes back the mashkin. Yeah? So it's Loshen Mashkina Dili, my mashkin gabaychu. I sort of retrieved, I got paid back. Shehu bechinas malchus. And again, it's weiter bechinas malchus. So if you look in the Biurei HaZoyar, when it's talking about Mashkina Deli Gabaychu, it emphasizes how here we're talking about malchus. So however you want to read it. For our intents and purposes over here, we've squared it with the Rabbeinu B'chai, we've squared it with the Zoyar, with the Pardas, that Eila, the connection, Eila Pekudei HaMishkan is comparable to Eila Tildas HaShemayim V'Aretz. Eila Pekudei HaMishkan describes the relationship between Zah and Malchus. Okay? So Pekudei HaMishkan, and the term Pekudei, so it's not just the items of the Mishkan. He says the word Pekudei can also mean Hu miloshen chayev adam lifgoid es ishtoi. So it says how a husband, before he leaves, goes on a trip, chayev adam lifgoid es ishtoi. He has to engage in sexual relations with his wife. Lifgoid is miloshen having sexual relations. Okay? So this now immediately pricks your ears, hopefully, to make you think about, we're talking about toldos. We're talking about toldos, offspring.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Vahainu, bechinas yichud zun, zacher nekeva. Shehu yichud kudsha berichu u'shchinte chuli. So eila pekudei hamishkan is the yichud of Zah and Malchus, which we sometimes call kudsha berichu u'shchinte. V'lochein haya bebeis. Yeah. V'lochein haya bebeis hamikdash gilu elikus. That's why in the Beis Hamikdash there was gilu elikus. Why? Ubifrat the Kedesh Kadashim Shayisham gilu ein seif mamish. In the Kedesh Kadashim, where you had mamish gilu ein seif, where you had the Arna Einim in Amidah, and you had the mamish gilu elikus. Mipnei shesham haya ikke yichud Zah Malchus. Because there you had the Eila Pekudei Hamishka primarily in the Kedesh Kadashim. So you had a gilu elikus from that yichud. Okay. So that is the pshat of Eila Pekudei Hamishka. Now, what has that got to do with Eila told us Hashemayim Ba'aretz? So he continues, Pei Aleph. The yichud zeh zeu gam king pirush Eila told us Hashemayim Ba'aretz. This yichud that we talk about of Eila Pekudei Hamishkan, yichud Zah Malchus, is exactly the same thing of what we're talking about when we say Eila told us Hashemayim Ba'aretz. Ki told us Hashemayim Ba'aretz. Hainu yichudzum. So when we say that Eila, these ones had told this, but the previous ones there were no told this, because here there was a yichud of Zah and Malchus, the yichud of Avaya and Elikim. There's a yichud of Midas Hadin and Midas Harachamim. Umash and Nikra hayichud told this Hashemayim Ba'aretz. Why do we use the term toldes? Why is the yichud called toldes? We're not talking here about the effect so much of the thing. We're talking, if we're saying this is the Eila tells Shemaim means the yichud, toldes is not the yichud. Toldes is the outcome of a yichud. When the man and the woman engage in sexual relations, and the female becomes pregnant, and then she gives birth, and there's a child. That's what's called toldes. The sexual relations is not called toldes. The sexual relations is called yichud. So why are we calling the yichud toldes? Umasha nikra hayichud toldes hashamayim va'aretz hainu lefisha kol inyan hayichud u'sheyeh b'chinas gilolikus. Because the whole point of the yichud is that there should be the gilolikus. So already in the yichud itself is contained the notion of toldes. We call the yichud itself already toldes, even though it's not comparable in the nimshal, because you'd say one is the yichud and one is the toldes. But in this case, the whole purpose of a yichud of Avayin Elikim, yichud of Zah Malchus, is not for anything else besides for gilolikus. Yeah. Okay. Then in the spoiler ill, we explained above in the Bramaschel Rava, which we know good. Yeah. The bebechinas Malchus ha'er mitzumtzum b'yosef. So now he's going to do a shtikl chazara of Lulav Arava, the point in Lulav Arava, which is, of course, the second pshat in Midas Hadin. The bebechinas Malchus, the in Malchus ha'er mitzumtzum b'yosef. The oil that's nimshach in Malchus is very mitzumtzum. Kaved Malchus chayimeru u'gvorascha ha'yidaberu ad shenasim ha'osis bebechinas yash, which cause that the oisius of Malchus are in a state of yeshus. And those oisius of Malchus, the levushim of Malchus, conceal the eir of Zah, which comes to it, to the extent that the eir is so that you can have the outcome of the creation of biyah, a yesh. That whilst Atzilus is still elikus, even Malchus is elikus, that the process can enable that there can be the creation of biyah. Canal, but like we explained above at length. Yeah, we have that in our pockets, right? And so the whole notion of yichud, this idea that we're describing of a yichud of Zah and Malchus, a hemshekh from Zah to Malchus, who sheyoy b'chinas gilu elikus ba'osis to Malchus. that there should be gilui, there shouldn't be helam, there shouldn't be tzimtzum, there shouldn't be a restraint on the oir. The oir should be niskala in those oisis of malchus. Ad sheyoir agilu lamata be'ilmas bi'agam kinchumi. So this is the alternative. Create the world of midas hadin. Then what happens? Everything is oir mitzumsum, like we explained in the Rav and Yemash Mini Atzeres. And that's the whole point. In order to create Bechinas Yesh, you have to have a Tzimtzum Ha'oy. You can have a Dov Nifrat. Rosh Hashanah Eilon Yochel is Kaim. Wasn't going to work. So Eila tells the Shemaim Ba'aret B'yom Asayis Havaya Elikim. Yeah? B'yom Yibarim B'yom Asayis Havaya Elikim. And what does that mean? B'yom Asayis Havaya Elikim. That means you have a Yichud of Zon Malchus. Which means that the whole purpose of that Yichud is B'shvil Toil Days. It's for a Gilu Elikus. It's not, it's not Yichud in order that Shavaita Tzimtzum. This is the opposite of Tzimtzum. This is the point of Gilu. And then that Gilu should be Nimshech to Malchus, and Vaita not just in Malchus, but also in Biyah. What's the problem with that? Is that fine?
Well, with Malchus being a Tzimtzum, how are you going to have a Gilly first of all? How's it going to work?
Okay.
It's in that country. It doesn't solve it. You can't have the best of both worlds where you have a Gilly and it's also through to. You can't have a.
Precisely. Okay. So that's what our work's going to be. That's what we're going to need to explain. We need to explain how you can have.
We could have said that before. The whole premise of the whole thing is that it doesn't work like that, right?
Doesn't work like what?
You can't just have 3 minutes a day coming Aaron J because it doesn't fit. That's the whole point. Only a Mitzumtzum can come through. Can't have an O that's not Mitzumtzum going through a Tzimtzum.
Right.
Doesn't really work.
Right. That's a problem. How are we going to figure this out? Another problem is how do you have a Matthias Yesh? Surely the whole point is to have him. It wasn't the whole point to have a Matthias Yesh. Why did it say that? Why did he want to create Ummah Zadin? Because he needed to have a Yesh Dov Nifrat. If you're going to start having Gilu Oir, how's anything going to become? How people think it's going to remain Nifradim? But we're setting it all up now. But you should be concerned because it's going against everything we've learnt till now. In a way, what we're talking about is there's going to be having the intention was to create Midas Hadin, and we saw all of the impact and the effect of Midas Hadin. Now we're saying we're just going to override it and just going to have a Yichud and have Gilu. Okay, so all of the qualities of Malchus that we thought were necessary and important, the Helam and the Hester and the Tzimtzum of Malchus, that we spent such a long time explaining in Lulav Arava and Yemash Mini Atzeres, is now to the side. We don't need that anymore. That's not important. The focus is now going to be on Gilu Oir, which at the moment is called the Oir of Zah. Zah is the most important thing in the world. And if you go back to the first two Maimorim, we know that the Kli, the Isha, the Makabel, Malchus is the Ikka. But now we're not talking in that Sprach anymore for the moment. You realize it's not the final word, but this is, at the moment we're describing what you might call typical or expected thing, that the Oir is better than Choshech. The Zah is higher than Malchus. These are like the Nishtalshus as we expect. And so the way it's describing things now is that the Zah is going to have a yichud with Malchus and it's going to overpower it with a Giluay. And so it won't be functioning so much as a Hel and a Hester. Both Zah itself, the Gevura of Zah itself won't be so strong. And then ultimately the Isis of Malchus will not be so B'chinas Yesh. And so it will be good. That's what it's describing. Not just good for Malchus, good for the whole of Biyah. Actually, Yoab Bagilo Mata Ba'ilmas Biyah. Shal Zenema Pakadeta Ha'aris Chuli Pelegalikim Mali Mayim. And this is what it says in the Pasuk, Al Dibra Maschil. The Pakadeta Oretz Chuli Peleg Elikim Molimoy. That you remember the earth, the stream of God, filled with water. So he's now going to explain that Al Pi Chassidus, that Pasuk. The Shem Elikim U Bechinas Midas Hadin, right? V'hatzimtzum. Letzamtzim ulahalim ulahastir sa'ir the Shem Havaya Chuli. That's the function of Shem Elikim. Shem Shemogin Havaya Elikim. It's metzamtzim umaylim umastir on the eir of Havaya. V'zeu inyan peleg Elikim. So what's the word peleg? So the Pashut Pshat is it's a stream. The peleg hu loshen hischalkus. Right? Peleg is in the palga, right? Half. It's like split. Peleg means to be split. Kamoi b'yomov niflaga. Like it says about the Derafloga, that they dispersed, they were split up. Right? But in your ribui aischalkus ha'oisius v'atzrufim the Shem Elikim. And it's a peleg Elikim is an indication of what Elikim is. Elikim is ischalkus ha'oisius. You take an idea and you make it split up into multiple words and sentences, then the whole thing becomes more mitzum, the oir is contained. So the very fact you have peleg Elikim, you have the oisius of malchus, that itself is mailim umaster and mitzamtzim the oir. I know masha bo beribu is chalkus oisius v'tzirufim. Bezem is alim is data oir. That has an impact automatically that the oir is going to become diminished. As the oir is not in a state of ischalkus, it has a greater intensity. But once it becomes the oir becomes restricted and diminished. So, and how much more the case when we're talking about these oisius of dibur, oisius of malchus, which are b'chinas yesh, which is what we explained at length in the Maimarim of Luvarov and B'yim Shmei Atzeres. U'memela ribo is chalkus b'zeh mitzamtzum master b'yesa. Everything is very simple. That's the nature of peleg Elikim. U'kanira b'chush, and here he gives an example. K'sho'emin meize inyan sichli b'dvarim ketzarim. If you say a concept in a short, pithy sort of phrase, then the concept is very sharp in that idea. But if you elaborate, the intensity of the concept becomes diminished and dimmed. Yeah? Like in a joke. You can sometimes give over an akuda in a sharp one-liner, in a witty response to something, and it can say more than if you elaborate and explain the whole thing. You might explain it better, but it won't have the same impact.
Right.
So sometimes being short and contained can have a big impact.
Did we talk about that in the beginning? How like two ways to explain to a Talmud. If he doesn't understand, you can bring him to your level. You can break him.
Yeah, because it's more intense.
Right.
So this is the peleg Elikim of the pasuk. The way that Midas Hadin, Malchus, the Oisius and the Bima Malchus, whatever we want to call them, impact on the oir. Good. So that's peleg Elikim as it is. So what's the pasuk telling us? But when you have an outpouring of chesed from its shadish, not gevuris now. She said, "In Yimashikosu Rabbas Tasreno, la'aretz el yoino, b'chinas ribu ha'oishe v'hashba, b'chinas rab chesed, u'b'chinas rachmim ha'pshutim el yoinim, ayidei ze peleg Elikim nasa b'chinas molim moyim." So ordinarily, peleg Elikim is a function which is mitzamtzim mailim and maslim la'ei. But when you have the Pakadeta Oris Vatashekaka, Rabbas Tasrena, what happens to the peleg Elikim? It becomes molim moyim, becomes full of mayim. It's the inyan of chasadim. So this is a description of what we just described before. Of the shit of midas hadin and midas rachmim. Yemasais havaya elikim. You have greatly enriched it, or you enriched it greatly.
And is this Molly Mayim filling in the cracks, or is it a river? Like which pshat are we going with?
In what?
Peleg.
In
Peleg,
the pashta pshat.
When we say that you should be
a peleg elikim is a stream.
Molly Mayim.
Pelegim is a stream, right?
Right. So through.
So one second, you got to think. It's a moshel and an imshel. Peleg, a stream is not a lot of water, right? It's a small amount of water.
And Molly Mayim is a lot of water.
And Molly Mayim is lots of water.
And then imshel, the peleg is chalkus.
It is the tzimtzum and the helen v'hester of midas hadin of the Asius of Malchus.
And then Molly Mayim is the.
Molly Mayim is when you have the yichud of Zah and Malchus, it becomes ungefilled. It becomes filled up with water. It becomes filled up with oil of gilui. Yeah.
So it basically becomes a keli. The peleg are cracks that fill. Is pointed being a keli, or it just is chalkus.
No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're saying. Peleg elikim is a reference to the Isis Hadibur of Malchus of Atzilus.
Okay.
Right? The ordinary, the way that was set up in Bereshis Bar Elikim, in the Bereshis Bar Elikim version of creation, right, the Isis Hadibur of Malchus of Atzilus were Isis B'Bechinas Yesh, which are Ma'ilem U'Master on the Eir of Zah. And through that, it makes possible the creation of Nivroim as a Yesh Radav Nifrat. Yeah?
Yeah.
The creation of the world from Eila Tildes Hashemayim Va'aretz, that comes a chapter later, B'Yom HaSois Havaya Elikim, is talking about a Yichud of Zah and Malchus, which in a sense overrides or removes the Helen V'Hester of Malchus. So Malchus is no longer Mailim or Master. The Isis Hadibur of Malchus are no longer the B'chinas Yesh anymore. Because we said, how are they B'chinas Yesh in the whole first place is because of Malchus Chimeir Ugvuras Chidaberu, because of Gvura of Zah. But now we're talking about them not becoming so B'chinas Yesh. And therefore they're not Mailim or Master. And there's a Yichud of Malchus and there's a Gilu Elikus. And the world is filled with Gilu Elikus. And this is reflected in the Pasuk, Pakadeta Aretz Vatshekaka. Rabbi Dr Peleg elikim Molly Moyim, that whilst Peleg elikim would ordinarily be a Helen V'Hester on Havaya, through this it becomes Molly Moyim, it becomes just like Havaya, full of Gilui, full of Oy. Now there's always a hemshekh from Zah in Malchus in order for the worlds to exist. You can't, the Seder Shtashus has to be functioning. There's going to be a hemshekh from Zah to Malchus. But ordinarily the Eir will be Metzumsum. Like we said, it's going to be Metzumsum, which is itself going to affect that the Isis of Malchus are going to be B'chinas Yesh. And there's going to be a Helen V'Hester. Acha Isis, the Malchus Nasim, B'chinas Levush, HaMaster Chuli Kanal. Avol Kasha Nimshech Ribui Ha'ir V'Hashefa Mimokin Gavay Yaisa. But when the Hamshach is coming from a much higher place, as I Nasim Moli Moyim, then it can get filled with water. That if there's Hamshach Milamayla, that overrides, in a sense, the ordinary constraints of Seder Shtashlis, then you can change the dynamics. By way of example, like water. The nature of water is what? To descend from high places to low places. But the starting point of the water, if it's from a higher place, then the descent is even quicker. We have, the trajectory of the water begins in a higher peak, say in a mountain or something, then the speed by which the water is going to descend is going to increase, yeah? And they come down very quickly, and they reach the very lowest places. Just because it comes from a high place doesn't mean it doesn't reach the lowest place. Not only does it not reach the lowest place, it reaches it quicker. Till it fills up all of the depths. And the lowest ones at that. Like it talks about how the heavenly
floodgates.
The floodgates in a sense, opened up during the flood. They're talking there about waters that were above the heavens. They were able to reach and extend to all parts. That the impact was such that the waters below the grounds also opened up, and I was able to rise to cover the mountains too. When there's a gilu of rachim elyonim, midas harachamim, havaya, what does that achieve? That causes that the hemshekh, the yichud of Zon Malchus, is going to be of a different order, of a different magnitude. As I nimshach eiba toikev mehirus, when you have such a gilu oir, everything is going to be much more intense. The oir is not going to become coarsened and diminished. It's going to shine in Malchus. And then it's going to be able to descend and reach to the extreme low levels, beyond Malchus. That meaning that through Malchus will be able to come to Biyah. Which is the complete opposite of Shem Elikim. You transform the tzimtzum of Shem Elikim to itself to become chasadim.
And why is this Ayudei Malchus? If anything, it's in spite of it, no?
Good. Don't worry. Yeah, these are all good reservations to have at the moment. But it's going to do with it. There's no point. It's very alert to your concern. That is the Maimer's major concern. 1 second over here. So we're just sort of negating Malchus.
And attributing everything to it as well at the same time.
We're going to see. You still need Malchus. But even though we still need Malchus, we definitely don't need all of the qualities of Malchus that we previously had. You might need it for something else. But the function it was having till now, the way we've described it till now, is going to be, as it says, it's going to be nishapich. Hepich bechinas hatzimtzum. Achu mahapich gam bechinas tzimtzum d'shem elikim is bechinas chasadim. Yeah? So the shittuf of midas harachamim is not so much a partnership, as you would imagine, of two different ideas or two different functions, and then blending together for the purpose of creation, but rather the dominating of chasadim over gvuris, rachamim over din. Yeah? So it sees them as very oppositional, that when you have midas adin, which is goiver, then what that does, it dominates over chesed and rachamim. And then what we're describing over here, the shit of midas rachamim, is the opposite. So you switch that over. But it's not that they become somehow accommodating of each other. There seems to be, in order for it to work, Malchus has to be mevatel itself. Its function is negated in the presence of the gilui of chasadim and rachamim. Yeah, that's what we're describing now. Ukmoi ha'hifchi atzura gam moyim, like you're saying to him that the stone turns into water. The tzur shu b'chinas gvureis, a tzur, a rock, which is indicative of gvureis. Nepach la'agamayim, shu b'chinas chasadim, switches into water. B'zel shepeleg elikim, shem b'chinas ribuy yischalkus asirufim d'shem elikim, shem etzamtzim astim ala eir kanal, nasim mit gvureis achsadim, v'ribu agilu da'irin seif, nasim gam kim moli mayim. These b'chinas chasadim sheyoya li b'chinas gilu da'irin seif. And that's the pshat we said, peleg elikim, which itself is there to be ma'ilem u'master and provide this chalkus to be ma'ilem u'master on the eir. It gets transformed to be itself become moli mayim. Not only is it being ma'ilem u'master on Gilul Likus, it becomes the means by which Eir Seif is niskala. So as you say, what do you need Malchus for now? What is Malchus doing here? Because now this is what he's going to answer now. To pu'ulas ha'oisi, or he's going to start the answer. The answer is going to go on for a long time now. To pu'ulas ha'oisiyos oz einay lahalim. Then the function of the oisiyos is no longer to be ma'ilem u'master. Kim adarabba, but the opposite, legalis. The oisius now function not as a means to conceal the eira ha'atzilus, they become the means by which to reveal the eira ha'atzilus. Bu'uliyos al yodam nimshach ha'eir bebechinas gilui b'pnimiyas davka. Because it's specifically through the oisius that this eir is going to be able to be niskala in a way of pnimiyas davka. Shezehu amitis hagilui. What is the true nature of a gilui? When that gilui is able to be niskala in a pnimius. Another way for saying pnimius, in a contained way. Not as a makif. Without malchus, without the oisios, the problem would be that you'd have this gavaldika gilu eir elyin, but there'd be no kelim for it. The oisios hadibur are the means by which the eir can be transferred, can be niskala, can be communicated, can be shared into Olam Esbiyah, into a world of Yeshus and Afrada, that this Oir can be nisgalib in a pnimius. Can have Gilo Elikus. Of course, there can always be Elikus, but to have Gilo Elikus is not a simple matter. And when we say Gilo Elikus, we mean Gilo Elikus, the true meaning of Gilo, Amitis ha Gilo Elikus. Gilo Elikus, which can be mislabish and Kelim. So what Malchus provides in the Oisios is it, in a sense, it packages the Oir. The Oir becomes packaged and delivered to Olam Esbiyah. And that's what the Oisios then function. Till now we've talked about the Oisios as being purposely to hide the Elikus, in order that everything can censor itself to be a Yesh V'Dov Nifrat. Now it's using the same qualities of containment, but for a different kavanah. The kavanah is no longer to be Ma'ilim or Master. It's the kavanah now is to be Miskal, to be Magal. But you can use the same qualities, the same tchunis that the Oisios have. Don't worry about that. And this is what we said in the previous Maimah. That in order for the Oir to go to the right place, there has to be a mechanism which is able to control this Oir. Malchus is the controlling point where the Oir can be contained and the Oir can go to the desirable place. Shezehu inyan shituf midas harachamim b'midas hadin. The midas harachamim hu shimshach b'chinas gilu eir and seif. Midas harachamim is the pshat one gilu eir and seif. But because it's being nimshach ay midas adin through the Oisiyos, the spheres HaMalchus, B'chinas Oisiyos the Malchus, Zemoyil sheyumshach l'mokim haroy davka. This enables it can go to the right place. B'liyos hagilui b'b'chinas pnimius, and that the gilu can be in the way of pnimius. By mashakos b'dem the Ramaskol Moshe Nigash Alaraf or Reish Nun Ches Daha Baha Talia Chuli. Now this is interesting. It references here the Maim Nigad Moshe Nigash Alaraf. This is from the hemshekh of Shavuos Reish Nun Ches. Hemshekh Reish Nun Ches.
Quoted a lot, no, this Maimon.
The Maimon, this hemshekh was less than 6 months before this hemshekh, so the previous hemshekh. So in the hemshekh there you have, I think, 3 Maimorim, and if you look in the footnote here, down in 802, it references actually not to the Maimon Nigash Moshe Nigash Alaraf. It refers to that's already from the second Maimon, where the Inyan begins. It's the end of the second Maimon, and then it goes into the Maimon Moshe Nigash Alaraf and explains it a bit more. And it explains there the needs, the sort of the dependency of these two notions, that something being able to be nimshach in a pnimius is a simon, or is an indication that you've got it's an inyan atzmi. Not mugbul. It doesn't have to be in a way of makif. It's not restricted in how it can be nisgala. Tikkun, the whole chidush of Olam HaTikkun is what? You can have Eiris in Kelim. What's the difference in Tikkun and Toyul? Toyul, the Eiris is not mislavish in Kelim. Whereas in Tikkun, Shmei Kein Hu, it's a Tikkun Ha'Eir. The Eir is mislavish in the Kelim. Tikkun HaKelim, yeah?
Yeah.
And the Sheirish HaTikkun is higher than Sheirish HaToyul. So the ability that the Eir should be nimshach in a pnimius, that there should be a giloi, talking about a giloi Eir Ein Sof, which, on the one hand is an Eir which is l'mayla b'shaychus la'ilamis. The Eir which is shaykh la'ilamis is the Eir mitzumtzum and the usual seder shtashus. What we're talking about here, Yichud Zon Malchus, Eila Pakadeta Mishkan, Eila tells us Shamayim va'aretz, Yimasais Havaya Likim. Yichud Zon Malchus, Yichud Zon, you're going to have a Gilu Eir Alin, and it's going to be a Gavaldika Eir. How's it going to be? It needs to be, if it's an emissary, Eir, it should be able to be Nimshach with Pnimius. Baha Talia. It's good. I have a look in the Nunches. It gives some oisius to this, which is helpful. It's not easy. I wouldn't learn it be'iyun, but just let's skim it, and to get a little bit of the context of how what he talks about over there. Okay, we'll do one more paragraph, and that'll be for today. Okay. So v'zehu inyan toldos hashamayim v'haaretz. This answers our question. This is what the inyan of toldos shamayim v'haaretz is, which was our original question. That we're trying to explain is that these ones have told us, but the others don't have told us. What is the pshat told us? Sheyiyah bechinas gilu eirin seif b'malchus. Eila told us hashamayim va'aretz is the pshat that there's a gilu of eirin seif in malchus. In a manner like it was before, there was the kitruk, the way that the moon, which is malchus, was not comparable to Zoh, the Shemesh. The Zoh and Malchus that both Zoh and Malchus received directly from Abba Ve'im L'Chachman Bina. Malchus. At that stage, there was no Helen Behester in Malchus. You had the best of both worlds. You had Gilu Alikus, and it was through the Isis of Malchus. So this is what we're describing. This is the structure we're going for at the moment, what the world that we're creating now in Bereshis Beis Pasuk Dalet is a world where there's a gilui of Eirin Seif, be it Zah, be it Lamayla Mizah, in Malchus. Malchus is no longer the Mailamu master on the Eir, it is the means by which the Eir is Niskala. And the purpose of the major bulk of the rest of the Maimah is going to be the beer of this Inyan. How does Malchus, which we've just spent an immense amount of time describing its characteristics, all of a sudden flip a switch and become a means by which to be Megala the Eir? Now, as you've already realized, this whole discussion is taking place within the context of the second pshat in Midas Hadin, which we find in Levarov and Yom Shmini Atzeres. We are not bechlal talking at this stage about Shuvi Yisrael. Yeah? The whole beer is only in the context of the second pshat. So it's important to realize that that's where we're situated at the moment. And we've just suggested that the meaning of Shittat Midas Harachamim is that now Malchus is no longer a source of Helen Vehester. Malchus is now the channel in which you can channel Gilu'e. But in order to sort of be in that mindset, you've also got to, in a sense, remove from your head all of the beautiful things you've learned about the Makabel, Malchus, Isha, Dibur. All of those qualities are no longer the issue anymore. If we're not talking anymore about the Sheirish Malchus, the Sheirish Dibur, the Sheirish Isha, Sheirish Haguf, all of those things are not what's important at the moment. We've gone back to a world or a mindset whereby Gilui and Eir is the ultimate objective. Gilui, Eir, and Seif. We don't want Helen. We're not reveling in the beauty of the Helen Vehester, of the Guf, of the Isha, of the Dibur, and all these types of things of the Makabel. We said no. That might have been what Bereshis Bar Elikim was all about. That might have been what the whole initial intention of creation was about. But it's not going to work. So we're going to go back to a much more predictable model where we say Ruchnius is superior to Gashmius, where we say Neshama is superior to Guf, we say Ish is superior to Isha, and all of we don't negate them entirely, we still use them as functional ways to fulfill the needs and the purposes of the Mashpia. The most important thing now is the Mashpia. The Makabel is now just a tool in the hands of the Mashpia. Right? Now, we have many questions. How does it even function as that tool? And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this Maimah, just to give you a sense of what we're going to happen. The rest of this Maimah is going to be a beer on that, all the way until Peches. So that is going to be the main issue to study over here. But on Peches, it's going to say Va'od Yesh Leima. And the Va'od Yesh Leima is going to give a different pshat, which is going to take into consideration the Mailas and Makabel. And based on the Od Yesh Leima, which he says very bekitza at the end of Pakadeta, he's going to then spend l'chol tichla figuring out the answer of the Od Yesh Leima. So really the answer we're going to give now is not going to be the final offering. But just to give you a sense, so the next, at least 2-3 shiurim are going to be on the bir ha'inyan of this, until we get to the Od Yesh Leima. And then the Od Yesh Leima then throws everything up in the air again and looks at it from a very different perspective. Good.